Yo, what's up, everybody? My name's Yoshino, and welcome back to week 4 of the anime battle royale. Back at it again. I'm ready to kill off Plunderer. Just wanted to get that out of the way. So I'm going to do just a quick recap to kind of get you back up to speed on things, since this is week 4. If you haven't seen the first 3 weeks, go back and watch them real quick. They'll pop up somewhere. But last week we killed off Orphan, and I do feel bad. Like, going into this week, I do feel bad for having killed it off when I did. When there is another show totally worth killing off beforehand, but I'm just going to do what we're going to do. But to get to it, let's start off with our first show this week, which is... I am so glad It Invaded made it on this list. It's in dead last place, which means basically that it was the least of the most popular new IPs, which makes me really happy that it got on there still. But what it is, the way I pick my list, is what people are most hype about, most wanting to watch, all that kind of fun stuff. What has people talking about it before it airs. And this show basically barely cut the list. It's on there, and I'm forever grateful for it, but it just barely made it on there, so my day is made better when I get to start with It Invaded. I am loving pretty much every single second of this show. It's got that right amount of like psychological drama, and the information being fed to you, you can get your own ideas off of it. I was once again wrong on this mystery, but I felt rewarded for trying to figure out the mystery. That's my favorite thing about this show, is that it gives you information, lets you figure it out, and even if you get it wrong, you still feel like you went on a journey worth going, mentally. And I'm loving this about this show. It's super well directed, super well constructed. I'm having only one problem with this story. The one problem I'm having with this is that it's said in the world that every time you die, you forget absolutely everything about the world you were sent into. As of each time he dies, he slowly learns more and more. He slowly gets better and better at it. That is something that in this world shouldn't be a thing, and they address that saying, like, isn't he supposed to forget everything each time he dives? They're like, yes, but that's how good of a detective he is. Either that is just a really, really bad explanation for things, or they're trying to do something deeper with it. To give it some defense in that, what they may be trying to say is that his detective instincts are what's keeping him alive longer each and every single time, because his instincts, the subconscious, is able to catch on, while his... I'm not good at psychology, so I don't know what the terms for like your consciousness, subconsciousness, id, or whatever they actually are. The fact that he's able to learn is a really, really cool concept in this story, but it's not played off well. At this moment, it's still a little bit early. I don't know how many episodes this show has, but so far it's moving at a pace where I feel like there will be an answer eventually. It won't be something that's left up to mystery. Even though it would be fine, I feel like something like that will come with an answer. I like how he's playing off these characters now. The main detective guy who runs the operation, he seems to have a very deep connection to him. The serial killer from the first episode, very intriguing. The fact that these episodes clearly are a part of a larger story is just great about this show. I love every single second of it. Visuals are also still incredibly striking, even though I feel like it's losing a bit more with this most recent episode, but the environment that they created was interesting enough that the art style of it falling behind was still enough for me to be, yeah, I still want to watch this. So, still, this show is on the very top of my list. Ain't going nowhere anytime soon. There's a couple of shows that may push it around a bit, but it's definitely not falling anytime soon. This show is sticking with me for the long run. But let's see how the next show does. Bofuri is not bad. I just want to say that first. I like Bofuri. I just don't care enough for it. And that's my biggest problem, is that it's just not giving me anything to care about. I mean, so far at least. What's coming up next might be a little bit interesting because of it being another one of those event episodes. We know she's going to end up in a very good position. We just don't know how good of a position. She may not get into a top place this time around. And that's interesting enough in storytelling. But we all know she's going to be doing good. That's the problem with these kind of stories. They're wish fulfillment type stuff. The other thing that's really bugging me about this show is that clearly the creator of it, the writer, they love video games, yes. Or either that or they find them really marketable, and they've played a couple before. But they enjoy video games enough to write about them. But they're still clearly not knowledgeable enough about how they're developed or anything like that. And I can tell that they definitely do play games in some capacity because of the fact that they patched the game in the series. They basically nerfed her specifically. She was too powerful too quickly. I'm pretty sure most video game developers would not nerf a character who out of nowhere got third place like that. If she had gotten first place, I can believe they nerf her right away, but they also changed up some other stuff. But the way they made it sounded out, 90% of the changes in the game were made directly to affect her specifically. Clearly something a developer would never do. Not unless more than one person was exploiting it, which it doesn't seem like anyone else in this show is exploiting the what she has found in the game. I just feel as though this writing style for storytelling is just a little bit too generic. That's not to say it's not enjoyable, but as someone who's seen so many animes just like this, it is starting to run a little bit bland to me. Again, this is not to say that this show is bad by any means. It's just not my thing. So for anyone who is enjoying this, I will gladly give this a 7 out of 10. I'm not giving it anything less because it's not bad. It's just not good either. The only thing that's really keeping me coming back is that they keep introducing more and more cute girls. That's it. None of the character designs are really aspiring or anything to write home about, but the character designs themselves in the end are cute. And the moe factor is working out just fine in this show. Beyond that, I really don't care. This is not one of my top shows this season. But if it is one for you, that's perfectly fine. You're allowed to have those opinions. I'm allowed to disagree with them, but you're allowed to have those opinions. So, good luck to anyone who wants to continue watching this. I'm starting to feel tired of it. Will it be in my bottom 3? I don't know. It all depends on how everything else goes. But for right now, this show is just not pulling me in enough. And I feel kind of bad for it. But we got more shows to watch, so let's get on with it. This show makes me smile. I don't know what it is specifically. Probably because there isn't anything specific about it, but Hanako-kun makes me smile each time I watch it. I feel as though it's a combination of things. The aesthetics are great. The lore for the series is great. The lore that everything is drawing on is absolutely amazing. And the way they work it in together, that's the part that I'm trying to get at. The way they pull in real world yokais and urban legends from Japan and make them into one cohesive storyline in this series is really, really cool. Very, very interesting. It makes me smile that way. And again, with the aesthetics of this series, you don't see animes that look like this. Even though it's not really animated too much, even though this series isn't all that animated, the paneling, the pacing, the characters, the story itself is moving enough that the pictures don't have to move. But with that being said, the only thing that's really pushing this thing above what it was as a manga essentially is that, one, it's in color, and two, it's got voice acting in it. And the voice actors are great all the way across. Every single one of them, I am enjoying their performance. They may not be like the best voice actors ever, but for the characters they are playing, they are perfect, and I love that about it. I just enjoy this show. It makes me happy every single time I turn it on. And if a show is making me happy to turn it on each time, it's doing its job right. I'm not regretting having to watch an episode. I'm not feeling like, okay, this is just the next episode of a show I need to watch. It's doing good. And for an anime to do that, when I've already said it's not all that animated, is a good thing in and of itself. Like I said, I'm a big animation nut, and if they are animating things well, I'm happy. Final notes on this show. I'm happy to watch it, and that's all that matters. So we're going to keep it going, and we'll watch what comes up next. I think I ask this question almost every single time we move on to this show. But what the fuck is this show? Starting off with zombies, going into that really cool fight scene. She turns out to be a magic user or whatever they call them. I don't understand this show, but it's so interesting. I don't know how people can write shows like these. Like, straight up, I don't understand. It's so intriguing to me. And I think that's the best word for it. It's intriguing. It has just enough about it to make you sit there and go, what the hell am I watching? But also just enough to go, next episode, please. I don't know what to say about this show. In its entirety, I just don't know. I think the action scenes are getting better than they were the best in the first episode, but now they seem like they're getting a little bit more into their pacing. So it's very interesting. All the mysteries in this show are done very well. Not too surprising, but surprising enough to make you want to know more, while still leaving little bits of information for you to follow. And this show just continues to make me want to know more, and that's the best thing about this show. Is that even though I'm sitting there not knowing what's going on, this show just keeps me on the edge of my seat for the next episode. The guy or chick, I don't know, but whoever created this series, someone take them to a psychiatric hospital, because they clearly need a little bit of help. But you know what? Let them finish the series first. I don't know what else to say about this show other than I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's so weird and intriguing. That's the best thing I can say about it. It is intriguing. One thing I did notice, though, is that this series seems to be utilizing a little bit more 2D animation, traditional animation in it. Either that or the 3D animation is starting to blend in more with its environment to where it doesn't look so obviously 3D. When I say it looks obviously 3D, there's plenty of series that are obviously 3D that are very well done. Again, this show's biggest problem is that a lot of the characters, when they move around, feel really, really stiff. Like the models are stiff. They're weighted, they move fluidly, but the structures that they're built upon are super stiff. And it kind of makes it hard to watch them move when they feel kind of jerky more so than moving, if that makes sense. That's my one really big complaint about this show. But it's starting to look better. And if they're starting to get more into their groove, that is perfect, that is great. I'm super excited for more of that if that's the case. So let's just keep it rolling on, move on to what's next. I hate how dumb I am. I seriously hate how dumb I am. I forgot to record this. So anyways, Pet. I don't understand why people are not as excited for this one. I've been seeing a lot of posts online about how its rating has dropped, but no one's really saying anything. And only a couple of people have actually responded to that, saying why they don't like this series as much as why they're giving it such a bad review. And for the most part, those reviews come down to the fact that they don't get it. They're having a hard time following it, and the story makes no sense to them. And to those people, I say, do you have a brain aneurysm? Straight up, this series is not that complicated, like, at all. Yes, it is a little bit deeper, and yes, you do have to think about it a little bit harder. But this show, as someone put on there, I saw someone say this before, this show respects its audience. Yes, it gives you a lot of stuff and a lot of unanswered questions, but if it doesn't directly tell you it in the dialogue, there are plenty of hidden subtexts in the way they are spoken. There's plenty visual explanations for everything. This series is not made for people to just passively enjoy like a lot of animes are. This series is made for people to sit there and take in the information, not be a passive viewer. And that's what I love about this series, is that it's doing a very good job of it. There are some things that I'm not liking, like this main character person kind of falling more to the background, the side stuff. I hate the fact that that's a thing. I seriously do. But with that being said, everything else about this show is going great. The visuals are still pretty striking whenever they do the psychological stuff. The characters are deep enough that you can tell that there is something more going on behind their eyes. This series is just very well composed, and there's some great stylistic choices in camera position and what is in the shot itself to make it almost cinematography. I know that there's a lot of cinematography actually used in anime, but a lot of it is underutilized. This series, on the other hand, is going, at least trying. It's no id Invaded, but it is definitely giving it more of a go than a lot of these other series that I'm watching. So this series is keeping up with me and making me happy. I am so glad it is here. I'm looking forward to it each and every single day. But in the meantime, let's move on. I love this show. Rikei-koi. I'm just enjoying it. That's the best way I can put it. I sit there and I smile and I laugh and I feel for these characters, especially the one dude at the start who talks about his love. Yeah, I totally feel for that guy. I've been in situations like that. Looking over at my own body pillow. But when a show builds these characters up to be more caricatures of characters, yeah, they're kind of one note. They're not fully deep. They're got one or two different personality modes. But you still care about them. That's the important thing, is that this show is still letting you care about them. And that's one of my favorite things about this show, is not only is it cute and endearing, but you kind of feel for these characters. And in a show where that is the entirety of the concept, that they're doing a good job of it. And I'm very thankful that this series has been brought to my attention. More times than not, I don't care for this show to be animated, but its story is so well compelling and the characters are being portrayed both in visual format and by the voice actors that I'm enjoying it. If this show does get dropped, which I don't see it happening anytime soon, not at least until closer to the end of the season, when this show probably will get dropped, I'm switching over to the manga. I'm enjoying this too much to drop it now. So this show is in the clear. I don't know what else to say about this show other than if you liked Kaguya-sama, if you like those love comedies where the characters know they're in love but they just cannot express it, that beating around the bush of romance comedies, this is a series for you. It is great. It's wonderful. I highly recommend it to everybody. But what else do we have to watch? I'm starting to get frustrated with this show. I love Nekopada. The girls are so cute. The story's not really something you really care about, but the way they tell the story through these girls is cute still. The voice acting is also super amazing from these girls. I love every single one of them. Some of their designs I'm a little less in love with, but I can clearly understand why someone else would love these character designs. And then this show comes along, and sometimes the art isn't all the way there. Sometimes the voice acting isn't all the way there. The sister character Shigure, I think she's the worst of them all, to be 100% honest. Not to say that she's bad, but in comparison to the originals, the gap between them, Shigure's to me is the biggest. And the story, it's endearing enough. The taking care of this lost little cat girl, I think she's the best thing about this show so far. But the rest of this show just isn't really keeping it up with me. I think this show would have been better as an OVA movie, maybe? Kind of like what they did the first time around. I think this series is made to be OVA material. Too bad we're not in the 90s and OVAs don't really do anything anymore. And ONAs, though good, are not really going the way people want them to because of the Netflix model. So this series is just kind of getting on my nerves because it's taking something that is good and just isn't doing something I want with it. And it's bumming me out. I'm watching it and I'm laughing and I'm smiling because there is cute things in it. But when you know the original content and know what it's capable of, and then you see this, I don't know, I just feel hurt. It hurts me. But let's move on to the next show. Next up is Somali. And I don't know. I'm still really, really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the calm and casual vibe of it. But even then, I like the kind of brisk pacing of it. I read the manga and I always took my time with it, reading, I would say only about a chapter or two a day for like a solid month. And I really, really enjoyed that pace, but this show almost has that pace down in a weeks-long format. As someone who took their time to read this manga at a slower pace, kind of probably what the creator wanted people to do, and now watching it, only getting 1 or 2 chapters a week in animated form, it actually feels really, really true to its source material. This is not a show I would want to watch episode after episode after episode because it would be kind of draining on me. But being able to watch it once a week, it actually recharges me. Makes me feel, happy, good. I don't know what other words to describe it, but I'm greatly enjoying that aspect of it. Just the calming nature of it. It makes me feel calm each time I watch it instead of stressed out. And the only thing bad I can say about this whole thing, the only thing bad, is its background art. But in this episode, when they go to the underground cave, the art worked perfectly. When they're in the desert scenes, it doesn't really pop off the screen as the original manga art did, but this show, taking that chance, I'm thankful for them. I don't think it's working, but I'm thankful that they're doing something completely different than most other series would do. And in doing that, they're pushing the boundaries for future shows, definitely. I'm just glad that it really, really worked out in this one scene where they're in the cave. I really felt that more so than any other show so far. That the background worked. And the music, I finally started listening to the music really well. They have a couple of insert songs, and they worked really, really good in this episode. Now, most of the music is kind of but when they have those kind of insert type songs, the songs that are supposed to be for a specific emotion in this show, they work brilliantly. So I'm giving this show its credit. It is kind of one of those shows that will be dropped. I'm unfortunate to say that. But I'm not hating it so far. I know I will finish this show in my own time. But for this series, it's not a really strong contender. It's definitely not in last place. We know what's in last place. And it ain't this. So let's move on. Inspector. I didn't like this episode. I felt like it was too much dialogue and not enough going on. The last episode where they did the exact same thing, where it was a lot of dialogue, had a lot more mystery to it. This episode took the same idea, but they were trying to solve a mystery that really didn't have any clues. It felt contrived to push the plot forward, and it was very interesting to see this girl make a return the way that she did. But as a series, this show is kind of jumping a bit too much. It's going from, oh, this is a light romance to, oh, this is supernatural drama, which would be good for the, the whole story if they kind of kept that balance. But then it's like, oh no, it's also a mystery, and also it's a police drama, and also it's fighting supernatural monsters again. It's jumping a little bit too much, and they are really clear and hard cuts to it. Which makes me think that they're literally just taking the manga, and wherever it ends, just jumping into the next thing, instead of giving that nice little transition. They're not letting it breathe, and that's my biggest problem with shows like this, is that they don't give it that room to breathe. This series could have a lot more going for it. I don't know where it's going in the end. I almost feel like it has that Muho and Roji kind of under vibes to it, where it starts out with this one little small thing, and then it breaks off into this bigger story that has a lot of the characters' backgrounds being explained through these bigger mysteries. But like Muho and Roji, it kind of lost its way pretty quick. It only took 3 episodes for this series to make me feel like it's losing its way. But it's interesting enough. And saving grace of all saving grace for this show is all the girls are fucking cute. Like, straight up, this girl, the police officer girl, any background female pretty much in the show is absolutely cute. And that's a hard thing to pull off, especially with me, because I have a very specific type when it comes to anime girls. This show is making a bunch of cute girls on screen. It's good enough for me. I'm a simple man. But if its story does not pick up, it may be losing places a lot quicker than it would really want it to. Especially me. I don't want to see this show go downhill the way it is. I was enjoying that first episode. I was enjoying that second episode. I was even enjoying the first half of this third episode. But then, again, I didn't care for the latter half. Even though the fight scene was cool, it just wasn't really enough to save it. So I don't know. It's falling. But I feel like it could save itself. It just needs to find its footing. And with that being said, we have just one more show left to talk about. Guess who's cheating? So, as of right now, the next episode hasn't actually been put out pretty much anywhere I've looked. Either that or whenever it does try to come up, my computer crashes. If you haven't noticed, my computer is actually crashed. Everything's a little bit different now because I couldn't get it back to the right settings again. But this show actually crashed my computer, and I couldn't watch episode 4. And everywhere else that's the less than savory places to get them don't have it up yet. So as far as I'm concerned, this show is dead. Now, I've been really, really harsh on this show, so let me talk about some good things about it. It's generic enough to sell. I'm sure this show is going to be one of those shows that gets really, really popular with the average anime watcher. But I'm someone who has watched so much anime that shows like this are starting to get on my nerves. Because we know what really, and I mean objectively, good anime looks like. This show is pretty. This show is interesting. But it's not good. Y'all can flame me in the comments all you want. I want to hear about it. I want to hear y'all's take on this because I don't understand why people seriously enjoy this show. I said earlier that this show actually has a higher rating than Pet did, and when I went back and double checked it, it had actually gone down beneath Pet in that last hour. So I'm very happy for that. But this show has so many more people watching it. There were so many more people in percentages that dropped Pet than have dropped this show. I don't know if people are just like, I don't care enough to drop this, and they're just not filling it out. Well, people were actually upset at Pet and dropped it. But it says that there are way more people watching this show. I think this is like either the second or third highest watched show across like every single website I've looked at. This show is doing really good in the West. I don't know how good it's doing in Japan. That decides a lot of things as well. But this show is succeeding, and I don't understand it. It feels like it has an original concept that it really doesn't know what to do with. It's not getting to the point fast enough. It's hemming and hawing around. I understand if it's trying to introduce characters, but Fairy Tail had a ton of characters, and it actually got to a point quickly. Even though it really didn't understand its own point and failed that, it at least got to its point and introduced the characters in an interesting way. This show is not really doing it. I don't know. This show is really hurting me to watch, and I'm glad I'm done with it. But I hate myself for saying this. I am probably going to complete it once the series is out. And then I'll probably do a deep dive into it. Talk about everything about this show. But dear Lord, save me. Help me to get through this series when I do get to that point, because I can't stand it at this moment. Yeah, I laugh at it one or two times. And when it got into that one really big fight scene, it was cool. It's too much fluff to get to that good stuff at this moment. And that, I can't do a show like that. Oh, and if you're wondering what the number one show this season is, for the new IPs at least, it's Darwin's Game. That thing I killed off first. I hear so many people praising it. I don't see it. I just don't see it. But with that, everything I've said about this show out of the way, let's talk about our top shows real quick. So as always, I talk about what my top 3 shows are and bottom 3 shows are. I really don't think I need to, because it's not much of a big change in anything from the top 3 to the bottom 3, but I'm going to ignore the bottom 3 and just let you know it's this. It's this. But let's talk about our top 3. Starting in third place, the Rikei-koi. And there might be some biases why I put it down a little bit lower, because I really, really felt this episode. This episode felt like it's getting into what we should expect from this show. This show is quirky, goofy, characters are off the wall, it's just all over the place. And science is just a backdrop for what this series is. Yeah, it understands science, but it doesn't get to a lot of the core STEM understanding of sciences. Also, I don't understand. I've done computer programming before, not at the doctorate level, but I've worked with people who are at the doctorate level. I'm bad at programming, just gonna throw that out there. I tried. But these professors, they never wore a lab coat. They wore coats, but never a lab coat. That might be a Japanese thing, but it's throwing me off now. It'd make more sense if they were chemists, biologists. It doesn't even make sense if they were physicists. That's just something that people don't wear lab coats for. So that's throwing me off. But other than that, the rest of the series is getting into its groove, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So it's definitely in the top 3. It might have made it to second place, but because of biases, in second place is Pet. And the reason for Pet being this high is because I'm trying to get people to understand this series. I've seen so many people commenting about how they just don't understand it. There's been like a lot of theories from people who do enjoy this series as to why people don't enjoy it. And most of those theories have been thrown out the window now that people are starting to say, yeah, I just don't get it. And if you don't get it, that's fine. You're not that kind of a viewer. But if you really, truly don't get it by sitting there and actually just actively watching it, if you are passively watching the show, that is the reason. I'm going to say this as nicely as possible to people. If you are passively watching Pet, you are watching anime wrong. Or at least that anime. The show is not to be watched passively. It is to be watched actively. All the information you need from the show is there. All of the answers that are pertinent are there. You have to watch for them and listen for it. I can watch certain shows and have them be understood without me actually knowing Japanese. I understand from hearing it so often certain phrase structures and certain words that the Japanese use. I don't speak any Japanese at all. I speak a little bit of Weeb, but no Japanese. And I can watch a couple of shows that are to be enjoyed passively by doing other things like washing dishes or doing the laundry. I can't do that with Pet. If I did that, I would not understand it. This is not a show that you need to watch passively. It's one of those shows that you have to be attentive. And I know I've said that probably like 5 times so far this episode, but it's the point I want to make. This show you can't watch passively. You have to focus on it. And in my glowing review of it, try it again, and this time be a little bit more attentive. You don't have to give it like full dead staring at it, kind of whatever it is I'm doing right now. What you need to do is just go back over it a second time and watch for those moments that you missed. I'm sure that a lot of people will get more out of it if you watch it that second time. So my glowing review is watch it. Why is it not in first place? Is because apparently It Invaded is doing that and people are still understanding it. My thoughts on that is that it's a little bit more visually engaging, where Pet has kind of an art style that's kind of more familiar to older anime styles. Something either... I can tell some of the characters are very shonen ai type character designs, while other ones are from like a very 90s aesthetic design. Some of those old 90s OVAs type design of characters. So it's a design style that is not engaging to people, where It Invaded has that engaging art style for a newer audience. Someone who's just getting into anime can really grasp onto it because it has that kind of artsy style that's kind of becoming more prevalent in more recent years, I think. It's a style that you can see in other places, but it's unique enough to be very engaging. The main character design, you can make just a silhouette of him, and I bet you people would recognize him pretty easily. I think they've been doing that in the opening. I have to double check. I think they are. But it's engaging enough, and then the environments that they are put in are more engaging, whereas they try to be engaging in Pet. They're being a little bit more subdued with the animation style. The animation style in It Invaded is using 3D animation to its fullest effect for this series, where Pet is using more traditional art style, and it's just not coming across nearly as well, I think. It's not for a lack of trying. It's definitely worth the watch, and it's definitely doing the best that it can. But for this series, it is definitely, I have to give it to It Invaded for doing a better job of that genre. I'm loving it. It's great. I recommend it. I recommend Pet, and I also recommend Rikekoi. All 3 of those shows are highly recommended right now. That's why they are on my top 3. But in my bottom 3, starting in bottom place, is Plunderer. I don't have to say anything more about it. It's just not entertaining. It's not good. It hurts me to watch, and I'm glad, like, at this moment of recording, it still has like an hour or 2 left to be posted online in a couple of different websites. Some of them are even saying that it comes out tomorrow, so who knows. All I know is this show is dead to me. I don't want to watch it. I'm done watching it. We're killing it now. Not even going to say a prayer for you. You're just dead. And with that, I want to thank you again for coming to the Anime Battle Royale Week 4. Week 5 is going to start getting tough because now we're getting into shows that I really don't want to kill off. I'm enjoying all of these shows to a point, and I don't want to get rid of them. But we're going to have to starting next week. What show is this going to be? I don't know. I kind of left it a mystery this time, so you're just going to have to watch and find out. Remember to follow me on Twitter and follow me, watch my streams on Twitch. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. I'd like to thank you all again for coming out. My name's Yoshino, and I'll be seeing ya.